The Dolphins' 2026 schedule has been revealed, and one thing is very apparent. There were no favors this year for the Fins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, NFL staff writer for A to Z Sports. Want to give a special welcome shout out to each and every one of you who are tuning in on a Thursday evening. If you're watching live on YouTube, we are also available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast to talk about the Dolphins' 2026 schedule release. It dropped, and the Dolphins, I thought, had their best schedule release package in the past several seasons, whether it was movie posters or the world's fastest schedule release. What was last year was the animated dolphin that kind of went with the rivalries uniforms. The Dolphins this year had Rick Ross with a cameo as Mr. Ross, which is a fun spin with obviously Stephen Ross, the owner of the team. So I enjoyed the kind of the twist with the Mr. Ross stuff, but that creative twist might have been the most enjoyable part of this schedule release, because the Dolphins, you knew the opponents coming in, and you knew it was a tough draw for opponents based on what you think these players were from last year, right? And there's a lot of year-over-year variety, and some of these teams on the schedule that look daunting might not be daunting. Some of these teams that look like, hey, we think we got a good chance to win this game, might be some of the better teams you play. You just never know. But at the end of the day, you get 2 home games before November 1st. Like, that's not a favor. You get no primetime games all season long. I'm not mad about it. I'm especially not bad about it as somebody who covers the team for a living, right? And the primetime games mean I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. the night of the game. So I'm not mad about no primetime games, but pretty clear message for what the expectations are for this Dolphins football team from the powers that be that determine who deserves standalone games in national spotlight. So we'll read through the schedule real quick, and then we'll go with some thoughts on the first month, which is a group that really stands out to me. There's obviously the last 6 weeks or so was another tough finish. And I think there's some interesting storylines there about talking about you want to play your best football at the end of the season. But you're going to have to play your best football at the end of the season with the caliber teams that are on the schedule the last 6 weeks are all heavy hitters from last year's playoff field. So here's the schedule. 2 West Coast games at 4:25 to start in week 1 and week 2 at Las Vegas, at San Francisco. So already we get like an interesting logistics test. Do you go out there and stay out there? Do you go out there for week 1 and then stay and then fly home and then go back out for after 3 days back at home, you turn around and rip back out to San Francisco? We'll see. Home opener, week 3, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and company coming to town. Now you get Kansas City early, and we'll see what Pat's situation is. He looks to be in pretty good shape as far as his recovery from a major injury last year. Week 4, Minnesota Vikings at Minnesota. It's another 4:00 game. So 3 4:00 games in the first 4 weeks of the season. Week 5, home against Cincinnati. That's your second home game. Bye week, week 6. Week 7 at Jets. Week 8, home against the New England Patriots. That's a home 4:25 kick on November 1st. That's your third home game of the season on November 1st. Week 9, home against the Lions, 1:00. Week 10, at Indianapolis. Week 11, at Buffalo. Week 12, home against the Jets. Week 13, at Denver, 4:05. Week 14, versus the Chicago Bears at home. Week 15, at Green Bay, 1:00 kick on December 20th. Cold weather game. And it's not a night game, but it's still very much, it's Green Bay in December. That'll be a fun storyline, but obviously 1:00 kick. Week 16, Chargers, 1 p.m., home, Hard Rock Stadium. Week 17, Buffalo Bills at home. Week 18, at New England Patriots. So you get a little bit of everything, right? Like you get tough road opponents, tough road opponent in San Francisco. You get a tough road opponent in the Buffalo Bills. You get a tough road opponent in the Denver Broncos. You get a tough road opponent in the Green Bay Packers. You get a tough road opponent in the New England Patriots. You get 3 road December, January cold weather games with Denver, Green Bay, New England. Right? All the narratives, you get a chance to kind of try to tackle them all head on, but obviously you're going into the season with a hand tied behind your back because 60% of your salary cap allotment is players who are no longer on the team. Let's start. Let's talk about the first 5 weeks before the bye. At Las Vegas, at San Francisco, home against Kansas City, at Minnesota, home against the Bengals. And San Fran is getting extra rest because they play one of the international games in week 1. So San Fran's, they're home with extra rest already in week 2 as a draw. You get your only home 1:00 kick before October 11th, midway through October. I couldn't believe this. I went back and looked it up because I saw, 3 out of 4 on the road. You know, the last time the Dolphins had 2 home September games that kicked at 1 p.m.? It's 2022 is the last time the Dolphins had 2 September 1:00 kickoffs. So for that home field advantage, and obviously there's concerts at the stadium and all kinds of talking points about whether or not they were even on available to do because of other events at Hard Rock Stadium. I don't know the details there, and I'm not going to pretend like I know it, right? I don't know what kind of influence that really does bring. But Kansas City and the Chiefs being the lone team that you get for a September kick, we're going to find out some things about this roster real quick. Like, this young group is going to have to grow up pretty fast. Minnesota is a hard place to play. So that'll be a good, logistics test, communication. How good is your communication from your coaching staff to handle personnel? Some of those things that we recognize as being pain points with the past few years of the Dolphins and how their offense traveled and the snap points for the motions and personnel guys not getting in on time or getting on late. And then we got play clock and play management issues. A place like Minnesota will be a place that will test you there. That's a great home field advantage that Minnesota has. It's a great place. And obviously it's early, so it's not like you're drawing them if they're in a lost season and the crowd's flat. And then Joe Burrow and company, after they put 40-something points on you, whatever it was last year in December, comes back to town, and you get them week 5. Obviously, these are all Sunday games. You don't have any prime times, so you don't have any Monday night games. You don't have any Thursday night games. You get no net rest other than your bye week, and you catch the Jets in New York off of your bye in week 7. MetLife takeover. I will be there. I will see you there. So this group's going to have to grow up fast. Obviously, this entire season is a grow up fast season because of the caliber of the teams, or at least you perceive the caliber of the teams on the schedule. But first 5 weeks, if you told me they beat Raiders and if they stole 1 win out of the rest of that group, if they were 2-3 going in the bye, it would be over the moon just because it's a tough draw, right? Could you be 0-5? Sure. But you got to play them all and see what happens. But that's kind of just as I look at it, my best case scenario here with a really young team, with a new coaching staff. Now, sometimes that works to your advantage, and I think that's what makes the Raiders game week 1 all that much more compelling is there's a brand new staff there too. So there's a lot of new. So then it just, I think that one maybe becomes more of like a who has more talent type of game. Now they got Brock Bowers, difference maker. Is Fernando Mendoza even going to start? It's going to be Kirk Cousins. I think the Dolphins have a good chance in that one, but if they don't get that one, man, like we might be longing to get past the bye week to get 2 home games against tough teams, and then maybe the Colts have a down year and the Jets are on the schedule twice in 6 weeks. So you kind of open it up a little bit. It's going to be that kind of year. We're going to talk a little bit more about no prime time, some more overall thoughts on this schedule on the other side of the break. Make sure you guys stick with us. The NFL schedule release is here, and now you could trade every game on Kalshi's. Schedule release always sparks debates. Who's overrated? Who got a brutal stretch? which teams are actually playoff contenders. Kalshi lets you trade on those predictions in a live market, from total wins to playoff chances and championship futures. On Kalshi, you could trade real NFL questions like whether a team makes the playoffs or reaches that certain win total, and it's available in all 50 states, so it's easy to jump in and follow along for the season. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10, Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. Looking at block 2 here after the bye, we'll go, October, November? October 25th, MetLife takeover of the Jets. Then Patriots, your third home game of the season on November 1st. That to me is ridiculous. And I get you only have 8 versus 9 road games, but Hard Rock Stadium gets its third game of the season on November 1st. And then you get the Lions the following week. And then you're on the road for 2 more weeks. So before Thanksgiving, week 12 is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. You're talking 4 games, like it kind of evens out. But that's a tough draw to get for those next home games. Now, New England, we'll see. I do think this is a team that obviously had an amazingly successful season last year. They played one of the easiest schedules in the league. That's where I think schedule relevancy matters. I don't want to have a soft schedule, right? Like, I don't want to be a team that wins a bunch of games against teams that aren't very good and you feel really good about it, and then you play a team that's on a different level and you kind of get smacked around and sobered. Like, we did that for a few years, right? And I think that was more the 23 team than I think the 22 team was legitimately the best group that we had. It was just everybody was kind of banged up, and it was the offense was so new that you couldn't catch up to it, right? Until the Chargers game late. But they kind of put the blueprint out, and then everybody studied all off season. And Miami had their own stuff that they got out in front of it, and they were too banged up to kind of show the best versions of themselves in 23. But that whole narrative about, like, oh, you play bad teams and win bad teams, like, that's not fulfilling in my eyes. I'll never be mad about wins, but I would rather, especially as a young team, right, that's kind of going to cut their teeth as they go. Good. Give us the Pats. Give us the Lions. And let's see how they rise to the occasion. And it gives you a great barometer of not being paper tigers, but like, what are you actually made of? But we'll see with New England as a team that obviously had the record that they did last year because they were that team that played that schedule last year. I think they're a team that will be a contender for a playoff spot. If you told me they were winning 14 games again this year, I'd be surprised. And the Bills have a nasty schedule too. Speaking of the AFC East, obviously there's a lot of common opponents between all these teams because they play in the same division. But that was one thing that really stood out to me. The Bills, Houston, Detroit, Chargers, New England, at Rams, at Las Vegas, by Baltimore, at Minnesota on Monday Night Football, at Jets, Miami, short week against Kansas City, at New England, at Green Bay on Sunday Night Football, short week against Chicago for Saturday Night Football, short week again at Denver, at Miami Jets. That's the Bills schedule this year. So I don't say all that to say, hey, like, Miami, let's get to 10 wins or anything like that, and maybe you win the division. But I think the winner in this division will not be a team, in my opinion, that has 14 wins like last year. Like, this feels like a 10-7 type of year might get it done, unless the Patriots prove me wrong. But the Bills, obviously, with transition, they have their own head coaching change. They got a defensive scheme change going on. They've been a team that's kind of been bottlenecked up against the cap. They got a tough draw this year. So maybe you're a team that catches them at the right time. You don't play Buffalo till week 11 at Buffalo. So you get them in Orchard Park on November 22nd, and then they obviously come to you on January 3rd. You only get one home. Your first home game's week 7. You only get two 2 division games, week 7, and you only get 2 division games until week 11. Obviously, you finish Bills Patriots at the end of the regular season, and that Patriots game will be a flex because all the week 18 games are kind of flex scheduling. So this middle block, I look at Indy as a team that I think could be ripe for picking. You obviously have bye week at Jets with extra prep for that game, and then Patriots coming to town is maybe a team that's a little bit more to be had. I think you could win a couple of games in this bunch of at Jets, home against Patriots, home against Lions, at Colts, at Bills, home against Jets. Like that block of games, was that 5? Kyle does math, 6. And maybe you could take both against the Jets. I think maybe you could take one against New England this season. The Colts, we'll see. Like that whole Daniel Jones situation, you're kind of getting into the back half of the season where a lot of Miami's young players will have had a half a season's worth of work and gelling together, and the coaching staff's kind of got everybody rolling a little bit. So I would not dismiss Indy as a winnable game either. And I'm not sitting out. We'll do a schedule prediction next week. I'm not saying they're going to win all these games. Right now, I look at this, I probably see 5 or 6 wins. And I know some people see less than that, and I get it. Because you got no favors from a scheduling standpoint. And then there's this last 6 weeks, which is at Denver, home against Chicago, at Green Bay, home against Chargers, home against Bills, at Patriots. That's a gauntlet to finish, man. So you might be playing your best football of the season, but it might not show up in the win-loss total. And I know there's some people that are, looking to an eye to 2027, and they're not going to be mad about that either. If you told me they win 3 games this year, I could see why you would feel that way. I don't think they'll win 3. I think they've got too much talent between what I think the offensive line is capable of being and locking in Achane and Jordan Brooks and the young players on the defensive interior. I think they have some compelling players on the perimeter, but somebody has to step up. If nobody steps up and if your other building block players get hurt, you have no depth as a roster. So that's not something that you can afford. So that's where the youth of this team has to play to your advantage this upcoming season. Is you have to be a more durable football team than what you've been the last few seasons. And the way that you achieve that is by being, by and large, a younger roster so that you're more durable and you heal faster because you're younger and you have less tread on the tires. So that's kind of it's not a 30,000 foot view. It's more like a 10,000 foot view on the schedule. But I have some more thoughts I want to get into on the other side of our next break. Make sure you guys stick with us. NBA playoffs are here. Every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Turn 5 into $150 just for getting started. I like FanDuel during the playoffs because everything you need is in one consolidated place. You can check stats, trends, matchups, all before making your picks. The whole experience feels a lot more informed. It's a really easy app to navigate too. It makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Just coming out of tax season too. You ever look at your bank account and wonder, like, where'd all my money go? If you do, you're not alone. Keeping track of subscription spending and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can see where your money's going. You can set budgets, get alerts, stay on top of upcoming bills. It makes everything feel more organized to give you a cleaner picture on your finances day to day. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. I do think the NFL schedule makers send a very clear message with this primetime deal. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4 o'clock games. Kyle does math. Means you got 12 1 o'clock games. Nothing on a Saturday, nothing on a Wednesday, they play football every day of the week these days. The Dolphins did not get a single standalone football game. And I don't blame them, right? Like the Dolphins are in pretty uncharted waters as far as their roster composition, as far as their salary cap management and commitments. And I get like you don't have a lot in the way of household names. You know, you have Devon Achane, you have Jordan Brooks, you have an all-pro offensive lineman that is a casual fan going to know who Aaron Brewer is? Probably not. There's no star corner, there's no star wide receiver. The fantasy talking points with the franchise are kind of way down versus what it was when Tyreek Hill was putting up 1,800 yards and getting 175 targets. It was one of the more established stars in the game. I get it. I don't blame them. Do I think the Dolphins will be so boring to watch that they wouldn't warrant at least one standalone game? No, I think they're going to be an entertaining football team. There's a lot of explosive nature to the roster still. The defense has its question marks that I don't know, especially in the first half of the season. Like, how effective is that group going to be with a bunch of guys that are gelling in a new scheme? You have a lot of rookies playing. There's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows. It'll be entertaining. Now, obviously, there's flex scheduling. Maybe they beat the Raiders, and maybe they steal one against either Minnesota or Cincinnati, and then maybe they beat the Jets, and maybe they beat the Patriots once, and then maybe they beat the Colts, and then maybe they beat the Jets again, and maybe you're looking at like you're lurking or in the hunt, and maybe you get to at Denver or Chicago or at Green Bay, and maybe that game does get flexed. Like maybe. Would I consider it likely? No. But that's the part about looking at this schedule and looking at the roster that Miami has. I don't know what to think because it's all new and there's so many new pieces. And sometimes you do have guys that gel fast. And if they gel fast, I'm not sitting here saying this is a talent devoid football team that it can't hang. Also want to talk about the preseason. This came, Mike Cugno put this out. Week 1 at Washington, Cam Wolf of NFL Network has confirmed that the Dolphins are going to have joint practices with Washington, which fires me up. Somebody from the Mid-Atlantic, right? So I'll be there for those whole festivities against Washington with whatever joint practices that they have, and then the preseason game. And then Miami has 2 home preseason games, one on August 22nd, one on August 28th. Those are against the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons with a familiar face behind quarterback coming to town. Be interesting to see if we get joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons. That would be fun. Now, it would be chaotic. I would stay off social media that week. I would not read the timeline. I would not be looking for whatever practice clips could put out there inside or outside of context that everybody on both sides of the fence is going to be hammering you over the head with. But two in the Falcons coming back to Hard Rock Stadium for a preseason game on August 28th. Be interesting. Interesting to see how much crossover there is if they do the joint practices and all that sort. But that's your schedule. You get the 2 home preseason games. You get 8 home games. You get as many home games for NFL football at Hard Rock Stadium in 6 days in August as you do for the entirety of September and October. That one gets me a little bit. That's a brutal draw. But what are you going to do? This team's got to grow up fast, right? That's going to do it for us here. Locked on Dolphins Thursday night. We'll probably have another show tomorrow. We'll probably give you a real Friday show to go along with the schedule reaction show. So hope to see you guys then. Fins up. Keep it locked in here on Locked on Dolphins. I appreciate each and every one of you who carve some time out of your evening, or if you're listening to the podcast Friday morning, whenever, Appreciate you all for checking out Locked On Dolphins. Make it a great rest of your day. I'll talk to y'all again soon. Fins up.